Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Once again, this will be a video covering where leftists are getting their hands into yet again. But before we get on to what the video title says, there are a couple of things to cover because it's not just intelligence agencies that the leftists are getting involved in. University of Liverpool drops William Gladstone's name from building over links to slavery. Now, for those of you that are not specific on dates in the 19th century, slavery was abolished in the British Empire in 1803. William Gladstone was born in 1809, so his links to slave trade happened to go through his father. What he is exactly supposed to do about that, I do not know. He also happened to be one of our best prime ministers ever, but anyway, let's get into the article. A student accommodation block named Gladstone Hall after the Prime Minister William Gladstone, whose family benefited from slavery, will be renamed in honour of an anti-racism activist. The University of Liverpool agreed last year to change the name and later promised that the new name would be decided by a student vote. Democracy, the god that failed, etc. More than 4,000 people voted and the building will be named after Dorothy Cuyer, a Liverpool-born anti-racism campaigner and communist activist. And a quick glance at her Wikipedia shows that she was a lifelong member of the Communist Party of Great Britain. She was the head of race equality for Harrogate Council and worked closely with the Labour Party MP Bernie Grant. She is also the main reason that the Slavery Museum in Liverpool exists. Now, the only problem with that I actually have a problem with is being a lifelong member of the Communist Party. This clearly shows that she has absolutely no grasp of history and appears to be some kind of predecessor to Afua Hirsch. For those of you who don't know who that is a Guardian writer who does nothing but bitches and moans about the Empire. But her Wikipedia is lacklustre in details of her life at best. But hey, I suppose she's more important than the Prime Minister who got us out of the Corn Laws and made us the most liberal nation known to man, in the 19th century anyway. But I think this just goes to show you how leftists, they really can't create anything. It has to be, oh, this thing we don't like has to be destroyed, we'll replace it with our own. And apparently that is a virtuous thing to do. No, I completely disagree. They need to start building their own things rather than completely undermining everything we have in Britain, as I have been saying for 2 years at this point. Students had pointed out in recent years that Gladstone's father, Sir John, owned more than 2,500 slaves and was paid financial compensation after the abolition of slavery. Of course, it is not pointed out for some reason to these people that also stopped a war and stopped probably those 2,500 slaves dying in said war. Gladstone, who served 4 terms in the late 19th century, spoke in Parliament against abolition in the earlier stages of his career, supporting his father's interest. Wow, a statist is working self-interestedly. Unbelievable. Critics have disagreed with the decision to drop his name from the building, arguing that Gladstone later changed his views as his father's influence over him diminished, and described slavery as the foulest crime in the history of the UK. He later wrote that abolition had been one of his greatest achievements of the period. Yes, but you see, his father was a slave owner, and you see, he once was self-interested with his father's estate, as he had probably grown up on it. Yes, that is a worse crime than having served 4 terms as Prime Minister, abolishing slavery further, including making it impossible for any empire to trade on the transatlantic slave route, and develop the nation and empire further with the help of the Industrial Revolution. He oversaw all that, but it doesn't matter because the sins of our fathers, I guess. I mean, seriously, when it comes to leftists, they have to stop thinking that racism is the greatest evil known to man. Racism only became one of the later things that we tried to solve simply because there were greater evils out there in the world. So when all those greater evils were solved, we came onto racism, which we should have solved in the mid-20th century anyway. And many of us, including myself, said we would have solved, but the issue just keeps being dredged back up for absolutely no reason. Thomas Sowell is right when he says that racism is simply on life support from leftists because it simply gives them all the power they want. Dr. David Jeffrey, a lecturer in British politics at the University of Liverpool, has said that Gladstone Hall was named after one of our greatest prime ministers, who had worked for the abolition of slavery and never owned slaves himself. Exactly. He told The Times this year, "There is a great sense that Gladstone is not the right figure to go after. There is the idea He had some fairly mainstream views in his youth, but his political journey over the next 60 years led him to a very progressive place at the end of his life. Yeah, that's very true. Announcing the name change, a spokesman for the Students' Union said, "Students have been at the heart of this campaign, and I wanted to personally thank all previous students and student officers for working so hard on this." Oh, well done. You changed the name of someone who literally abolished slavery in the British Empire and made it impossible for other nations to practice the trade. Yes, well done. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. And finally, a huge thank you to everyone who had their say and voted in the referendum. I'm so proud to have finished what they had started and taking the necessary steps to create a more inclusive and diverse campus. Yes, it's more inclusive and diverse because we changed a name on a plaque on a hall. Unbelievable scenes. And I know this can be turned around me on saying, well, if you're just saying it's a name on a plaque on a hall, why do you care so much about it? Well, no, here's the thing. If you're trying to tell me that the way we get to a more diverse and inclusive campus is to change names on plaques of British history, that shows me two things. That shows me, one, when it actually comes to the people and policies to get people into the universities, diversity and inclusion has probably got to where it needs to get to. And secondly, it also tells me that you absolutely hate this country and would rather have communist activists who basically all they worked on in their life was anti-racism, which I'm not saying is the worst thing in the world to fight for. And in fact, I myself am working to eradicate racism in the UK by actually talking to Wignats and people like that and explaining to them why their racism is unfounded. You know, that's actually doing something about it rather than just trying to take away things that brought you to the point where you can do whatever you want to try and improve diversity and inclusion, which, by the way, most of the policies for diversity and inclusion are just racist policies, hence I'm against them. But you'd also take down the name of someone who did more for your cause in the 19th century than anyone in that university has done probably ever. It's just far too much power and time for these people that they need to then nitpick for things they don't like, with reasoning that is complete dog shit. Though that is true for every argument they make. And I think the Times article basically tries to say that as well. When the university announced the nomination process, it said that the new name should have connections with Liverpool or the surrounding region and speak to the theme of racial equality. Why? Why does it have to be that theme? The decision to rename the hall, it said, had been made in recognition of the strength of feeling evoked in our student community by Gladstone family's historic ownership of enslaved people and their profiting of the transatlantic trade in enslaved people. And, you know, as I said before, what about the Gladstone family's movement to end all that? Seriously, if it's evoking strong feelings because of something that happened 200 years ago, your university is not doing the right thing. Your university should tell them to sack up. Christ, wait until they go over to the Middle East and see how many slaves are over there. Wait till they go to India and find out it's the biggest slave nation in the world. Yeah, most students I know go over there and try and have a really good time in India and try and find themselves. Honestly, for people who think they are trying to expand their mind, they have the most closed mind I've ever seen. So if their influence over universities wasn't enough, the Times also put out this article today. Transgender campaigners have too much influence over hate crime laws, says former judge. So not only is it in the universities where they have too much power, it appears that even people in the legal system are saying that leftists have far too much power when it comes to lawmaking. Their tentacles are everywhere. It needs to stop. A former senior judge has said that the campaign groups are being given too much say over proposed hate crime laws that could interfere with freedom of speech and stifle debate about transgender issues. Charles Wyde QC, a retired Old Bailey judge, voiced his concerns about a consultation by the Law Commission, which advises the government on possible legal reform in England and Wales. The Commission is consulting on whether hate crime laws should be expanded to cover misogyny, age, sex workers, homelessness, alternative subcultures, and philosophical beliefs. I absolutely love to bits how it is alternative subcultures that are protected and not the main culture that everyone lives under. It is blasphemy laws for the minority, or when it comes to misogyny, the majority, but they're whams. Oh, and I don't know if they know this, but protecting philosophical beliefs means that they are protecting hate speech from Nazis, because that is literally a philosophical belief. As I said before, far too much power, far too much time, absolutely no thought put behind any of it. Wide fears that the body is straying from its non-political brief, over-relying on particular groups and drawing on conscientious and controversial sociological theories. He made reference to the apparent influence of the LGBT campaign group Stonewall on the Commission in the debate over whether gender is a social construct rather than being determined by birth. The actual answer is that it's somewhere in the middle. In a pamphlet for Policy Exchange, a think tank, Wide wrote, "Rightly, the interests of those who might be protected are considered in detail, but little attention has been paid to those who might suffer or fear suffering the consequences of laws being too widely drawn or misused." Yes, but you see, that's because you're a racist, Mr. Wide. The only reason you'd worry about this law is because you're probably going to say something very racist that was going to hurt someone's feelings, and eventually, because non-crime hate incidents are there just to justify things like this, they will all eventually turn into hate crimes. So unlucky, I'll see you in jail. It should be a matter of real concern if the Law Commission is morphing, at least in part, into an engine of social change, pursuing agendas of its own formulation, having a privileged position close to the heart of government. Free speech campaigners criticised the Commission over a proposal to classify offensive comments made in private dwellings as a hate crime. It has now dropped the proposal, according to the Daily Telegraph. Yeah, it will for now, but come back in 5 years, they'll be proposing it again. The former judge added, "The consultation paper displays almost no awareness of an elephant in the room, affecting both the substance of the subject and the conduct of the consultation. The apprehension, even fear, which results in self-censorship. For many, the fear of the Twitter storm or a visit by the police as a result of a politically or personally motivated complaint is enough to silence them." That is absolutely true, and that is part of the reason I don't show my face or say my real name on the internet. Because you see, my sister recently got a new dog and she keeps saying how cute it is. Maybe I'll make a video to put on my YouTube channel showing her how uncute I can make it. I think you all know where that's going. Luckily, Stonewall can hit back on things like this, so a spokesman for Stonewall told The Times the Law Commission's review of hate crime laws is an important opportunity to review how legislation is protecting our communities from hate crime. "We want to see the law reformed so that crimes based on sexual orientation, transgender identity and disability are treated equally to those based on race and faith." Why have you got to go that far? Why can't we go the other way? Why can't we remove the ones based on race and faith? Why do they have to be there? Who is actually helped by this law? All this is doing is creating resentment. This will help improve confidence in the way the criminal justice system deals with LGBT plus hate crime. Yeah, the reason they are annoyed and want this law put in at the moment is because most of the time these are put under non-crime hate incidences. Because they're not crimes. So their thought is, well, if you make it a crime, non-crime hate incidences, we'll get a lot less of them. They don't understand the nature of what this will actually do for their community. People who are genuinely, let's say, homophobic or transphobic, though I question how true those things are, but let's just, say what they say it is for now, because we're trying to get in their mindset. If non-crime hate incidences turn into crimes, why wouldn't they just go, well, I'm going to go to jail anyway, may as well go whole hog? Why wouldn't they put an assault charge on top of it, given that these hate crimes, are going to have a permanent record on them anyway? Because, people who will genuinely not care, there are people like that, but there are people who literally aren't doing these crimes because of the deterrent. And now that you've taken away that deterrent slightly, because their mindset goes, oh, well, it's bad enough I'm getting a permanent record for committing a hate crime of calling them, an F word for gay people, well, I may as well just beat the shit out of them now. Why wouldn't they do that? You're actually probably going to see a rise in homophobic attacks over this, and transphobic ones, who knows? And that's not even getting into the philosophy of why protecting people based on these classifications is bad, but, if you want to hear about that, go see any other of my videos on this. Anyway, we're nearly 15 minutes into this, and I've not even got onto the main subject that I wanted to get to today. Literally yesterday, the CIA put out a recruitment video, and we're going to watch it, because I don't think I've given you enough cancer today. Here we go.
When I was 17, I quoted Zora Neale Hurston's How It Feels to Be Colored Me in my college application essay.
Oh, it's a good start for the CIA, isn't it? Hey, you know all those college students? You know the ones that really want to undermine, America and bring in a load of, race-based laws and, defund the police and all that? Yeah, the CIA, the police squared. Yeah, we want more people like that. Absolute morons.
The line that spoke to me stated simply, I am not tragically colored. There is no sorrow dammed up in my soul nor lurking behind my eyes. I do not mind at all.
Good for you. How is any of that going to help you overthrow a socialist dictator in South America? Or help fund one, I don't know. I don't know what the CIA gets up to these days.
At 17, I had no idea what life would bring, but Sora's sentiment articulated so beautifully how I felt as a daughter of immigrants then and now. Nothing about me was or is tragic. I am perfectly made.
I love the dichotomy there. It's either you are a tragic creation or you are a perfect creation. I also love how she says that she is made perfectly when, let's be fair, there are better looking women out there.
I can wax eloquent on complex legal issues in English while also belting Guayaquil de mis amores in Spanish.
Oh, you're fluent in 2 languages, finally. Something that might actually be useful for the CIA.
I can change a diaper with one hand and console a crying toddler with the other.
Okay, that's not so useful to the CIA. I mean, this is what I mean. Why is it that, these women of colour, they're literal supermen? They can do everything. They can speak 2 languages. Or they can also be a mother. What's so amazing about a mother managing 2 infants at once? My mother bloody did that. Literally every woman I know who has had 2 kids close together did this. You're not special because you can look after kids. Literally every woman has done that successfully who has had a family. I also don't see how it's relevant to the CIA.
I'm a woman of color. I am a mom. I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder.
Jesus Christ! These are the people that are like, labels don't matter. And it's like, oh, by the way, I'm a woman of colour. I'm a cisgendered woman. I have anxiety. She's got kids as well, and she's going to pass on the fact that her being a mother was some superpower or something. I don't know. She's got to put a load of crap in their head, though. And apparently all this is relevant to a CIA job. It's like, oh, just get me off this planet. What are you doing, America?
I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise.
I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise. Despite the fact that she literally just ticked boxes there. Woman of colour, mother, boom, boom. Anxiety disorder, oh, she's technically disabled, boom. Well, it's another checked box. No, your existence is nothing but checking boxes. That is literally what intersectional means when it comes to the hiring practices with these equality laws. Why do you think the UK and US government constantly look at the wage gap? It's to check a box saying, oh, equality when it comes to pay, which is something that is never going to come out in reality. Why do you think they're constantly looking at demographics and then we get left-wing politicians coming out and saying, oh, things are too white, and then we end up getting Ash Sarkar saying, oh, we're winning, lads, when London becomes a minority white city? It is nothing but box ticking, and you are fooling yourself if you think otherwise.
I am a walking declaration, a woman whose inflection does not rise at the end of her sentences, suggesting that a question has been asked.
I fucking love how she describes herself as a walking decoration, and then the very next sentence says, oh no, actually, I'm a woman who doesn't ask questions, basically. She's saying she's all sorts of things that are completely contradictory to one another within sentences. She is literally a walking Guardian opinion piece.
I did not sneak into CIA. My employment was not and is not the result of a fluke or slip through the cracks. I earned my way in, and I earned my way up the ranks of this organization.
I wish I could believe that, but the only thing that you've actually told me in this recruitment video is that you can speak 2 languages. That's the only thing of use to the CIA. The rest of it has been, I'm a woman of colour. You sound like the perfect diversity hire to them. I don't believe you. That's all I'm saying.
I am educated, qualified, and competent.
Again, she has to tell us this, rather than it actually, being shown or given with examples. If I was writing my CV or resume for you Americans out there, if I was writing that and just put, I am an educated person who is competent, they'd throw that resume or CV away, because that tells them nothing of my actual experiences. This is dog shit.
And sometimes I struggle. I struggle feeling like I could do more, be more to my 2 sons. And I struggle leaving the office when I feel there's so much more to do.
Oh my god, make it end. This is, again, one of those things where when you're in a job interview, they're like, oh, tell me one of your weaknesses. Oh, I struggle. Yeah, I struggle to do more work because I do so much already. So it's not really a weakness, is it? This is awful. This is the opposite of what a recruitment video should be.
I used to struggle with imposter syndrome, but at 36, I refuse to internalize misguided patriarchal ideas of what a woman can or should be.
Kill me now. There is no way you went through college and then had jobs. And, you know, you may have had imposter syndrome. I don't really care. But to blame that on patriarchy instead of your own failings is ridiculous. And as she said before, oh, I didn't, you know, I'm not a checklist. You are a checklist. Feminist. Intersectional. Woman of colour. Mother. Anxiety. You tick every single box that shows me you are a person that should be nowhere near the levers of power. And yet here you are in the CIA.
I am tired of feeling like I'm supposed to apologize for the space I occupy.
Yeah, I also wish people would stop telling me that as a white man I have privilege as well, but, you know, I have to live with it. But I suppose if I did that, I'd be part of the patriarchy. Oh, double standards? Yeah, well, that's the left for you.
Rather than intoxicate people with my effort, my brilliance. I am proud of me, full stop. My parents left everything they knew and loved to expose me to opportunities they never had.
My condolences to her parents. They have made an absolute bitch of a daughter.
Because of them, I stand here today a proud first-generation Latina and officer at CIA.
Whoa, 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 Latina. That's showing your cis privilege, man. You need to say Latinx. Seriously, though, at this point, I'm actually glad she didn't say Latinx. That would have been the cherry on top. But I would be incredibly surprised if, in the next recruitment video, they don't say Latinx, but my god, this is the worst thing I've seen in my life.
I am unapologetically me. I want you to be unapologetically you, whoever you are.
Alright, I am unapologetically a cis, white, heterosexual male, and I think that everything you have just said here is possibly the worst things you could have said. I don't believe you're competent. I think you probably should have stayed at home with the kids. And having you in the CIA is probably one of the worst decisions that they have ever made. Does that make you happy? Does it make you happy that I have just been who I am unapologetically? You know, are you happy about that? I want an answer.
Know your worth. Command your space. Mija, you're worth it.
America, what the hell happened? The worst part is that this stuff's being exported. For instance, MI5, which I suppose you could call it the British version of the CIA. They had an International Women's Day recently, and just everything in it was pure intersectional nonsense. This was the last paragraph of it. Despite making good progress, we still have further to go to achieve true gender equality. Our gender pay gap report, which was published in December 2020, showed a 13% gap in mean pay between men and women, though it also showed that women now account for 38% of senior staff, and we expect to meet our 2021 target of 45%. We remain committed to making sure that MI5 has a truly equal workforce, and are proud to be the only UK intelligence agency to have been headed on 2 occasions by women. Just all this wanking off over themselves that, oh my god, we've not made it yet, we're so sorry, but we hope that we can get to 45% pay gap. Oh, it's going to be so good, you're going to love us even more. No, they're going to want more. They're going to say, okay, now up that to 55%. Oh, women have to be better than men. They have to be constantly heading these things. It has to be 55% of senior staff headed by women. It needs to be headed by a woman, the whole thing. Oh, we have a queen? Oh, I don't care. It will only go further. You need to understand, they hate their perception of men. They hate it. All this stuff about equality, that's just to get the normies on side. But in the end, the people actually at the forefront of this, in the intellectual department, they are running on nothing but hatred. And it needs to stop. And they're even putting their money where their mouth is with this type of thing. This is a job for a foundation analyst, so a low-level job to enter MI5. The application window for the Foundation Analyst role will open on Friday the 7th of May 2021. In the meantime, we encourage male and female individuals from Black, Asian or minority ethnic BAME background, which is a banned word I thought, and females from any ethnic background to register their interest in the forthcoming opportunity. And they try and make clear what they really mean at the bottom here. We are encouraging registrations of interest from these groups due to their current underrepresentation in our workforce. Once the application window has opened, we welcome applications from all candidates, regardless of their ethnic background, gender and/or other characteristics. All applications will be assessed solely on merit. I don't believe you. I simply do not believe that is the case. How can you possibly only assess on merit when you have targets such as 45% of the workforce to be WAMs, and you almost certainly also have targets on, transgender people, gay people, and BAME people. God, I hate that word. I really should stop using it. Non-white people. How am I supposed to believe that? I don't believe this at all. I have to go off your word. But your word, behind all that, has the forefront of people who basically hate me for who I am, and who I have seen lie before on many, many occasions, to the point where they completely misconstrue stats, completely misconstrue history, and basically blame the whole thing on white people, when obviously life and history is so much more complicated than that. But you know what, MI5? More power to you. I can't wait for the institution to fall apart. And at this point, if I think I go any further looking into this, I am just going to get very depressed. And hey, I'm here to entertain and educate, I suppose. But with that, that is everything I had for you today. So, as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.